Hi, my name is Aida Ramazani and I'm glad to be presenting our paper, An Unsupervised Framework for Tracing Textual Sources of Moral Change. Morality is an important aspect of our social lives and people who we interact with. However, our perceptions of people's morality does not always stay the same. To illustrate my point, Bill Clinton was elected for his second term presidency of the United States in 1997. However, at the end of that year, he was accused of harassment and eventually impeached in 1998. Due to this event, his moral image deteriorated drastically in the public's eyes, and according to a poll from Gallup, by the end of 2001, more than 58% of Americans did not consider him an honest or a trustworthy person. Now, how exactly our morals change is still not clear, but language has been known to play a determining role to constructing our morals and changing them. Based on this, the problem that we focus on in this paper is how moral perceptions toward entities like political leaders change over time, and if we can use textual analysis to understand the sources of these changes. Recent advances in NLP techniques have offered a new venue to explore the problem of moral inference from text. For example, existing studies try to classify different types of moral concerns in short text snippets such as social media posts or political speeches. Other work focuses on the relationship between moralization, which is inferred from textual data like tweets, and violence in protests. Another study shows how moral sentiments towards different social concepts like slavery or democracy have changed over time. The common theme here is that they often take an aggregate approach and don't focus on analyzing the moral sentiments of individual entities. Our work goes beyond this by examining the topics that influence the moral sentiment at the entity level. In our research problem, we ask the following question: what are the textual sources of moral sentiment change for entities like political leaders? To extract the most salient sources, we drive the moral time course of entities and find the time points in which the moral sentiment is changing. For example, the change point in this plot is the beginning of 1998. We find this point and ask, why did the moral sentiment toward Bill Clinton become increasingly negative during 1998? The answer, automatically inferred by our framework, points to the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. In our model, we assume that moral sentiment is context-dependent. We use the text of documents associated with an entity and analyze the sources of moral sentiment change with decomposition of topics as probability distributions. The most salient topic is the source of moral sentiment change. For example, in this figure, we are showing the moral polarity of Bill Clinton and the topics in an article at a snapshot of time. We estimate the topical distribution on the moral sentiments for our articles and track them over time until we encounter a change point in moral sentiments. We then find the topic with the most influence on the perceived change. Here are some highlights of our results. This figure shows the detected topics from the earlier time series plot of moral polarity for Bill Clinton. The topics are derived from decomposing the text at the change point of 1998. The bars show the distribution of topic saliency as a source of moral sentiment change. You can see that among different topics associated with Bill Clinton, the one focused on the scandal is the most salient and selected by the model as a source of Bill Clinton's moral decline. In the paper, we also show how our framework can be applied to short-term or ongoing events like the COVID-19 pandemic. This graph here shows that during a period of 7 weeks, from mid-February to mid-April, there was a rise in the morally relevant context associated with Donald Trump in the US news media. Our model successfully attributed this change to discussions about Donald Trump's controversial tweets about the COVID-19 virus during that period. In conclusion, we developed an unsupervised topic-based approach to identify sources of entities' moral sentiment change in text and showed the utility of our framework in interpreting moral changes in the news. Thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me.